Yeah, to start out with some good stuff, I think is probably a good thing to do. So I just wanted to do a video about my thoughts on the game, put some notes down of some things I want to go through, some ideas, and things that I think could really help the game in the long term. And there's quite a few bits to cover, so I'll try and not go into too much detail, but there's a few areas that I think are really key. First thing I want to say is this game, like, since the expansion, we had what? This area, Sacrament, and then Embers Pass, and the Crucible. You know, this area was an amazing add-on. The Marin Woods, Thunder Meadow is really good as well. The best two zones, I think. So they did an amazing job with the update, and it's made the game way longer in terms of the story. Way more enemy types, way more animations, weapon combinations. Like, they've done an amazing job with this patch, and it's a big leap forward, and it's way better than what I thought it was going to be. I kind of just want to say that first, because I do really like this game, and I want it to do well, and I think there's some really key things that would really help this game out. Now, the main issue at the moment, in my opinion, for the game, is to do with Embers. The reason for that is because if I think about this game without these, what it would be like to play this season. If this wasn't here, this ability to infinitely reroll because of the bug right now, which needs fixing, but even without the bug, even if you take that bug away, these are still just insanely strong because you can get them from chests, so they're really easy to find. And infinite rerolls on gear mean you can just get perfect gear. I've had instances where I've got a purple with no stats that I want. In 15 embers, I've made it a perfect roll. You know? That is not going to be good for the game on release. It's just not going to be good. So I think that's something that does need to change. And hopefully they will. I think the best thing to do is to take them out of chests completely and put them behind bosses, put them behind endgame content. Maybe increase the drop rate, you know, give us more than what we get at the moment from bosses, but make me want to play the game to get these. I think that's a key thing. Potentially also limit to the rerolls we can do, because right now you can do as many as you want. And while it does allow us to customize our look a lot better, you can choose what gear you want, edit it, you know, based on the stats that you want, and you can choose how you look, which is really good because there's no Transmog feature. But for the health of the game, Embers need to be really looked at, I think, and that is the main thing I wanted to talk about. Because right now, they're too easy to get, there's a bug so you get infinite rolls on them, and I think both those things need fixing. Personally, I really hope they just massively rethink how powerful these are. They're the best item in the game. They're super easy to get. Even without the bug, they're still too easy to get. I think about this game, and you know, you look at the reviews it's had on Steam and some of the reaction, and I think a lot of it is to do with the early game. The first 10 levels on this game, when you clear this section out here, you clear this section, you get to Sacrament, and then you go back through. People are really struggling, I think, after that part. And they're struggling to kill Derek on the bridge, they're struggling in the sewers, they're just struggling in general on resources, and I think they need to consider heal over time out of combat. So when you're not in combat, allow us to heal over time at any level. And I don't think that's going to impact the endgame whatsoever. In fact, it won't. It will not affect me at level 13 anyway. But what it'll do is it'll make the level 1 to 15 experience way better. Food will still have a big impact because in fights, obviously they won't have the heal over time, and they'll need food to heal through the story. But a lot of the difficulty in this game they've implemented, which does make sense in theory, but it doesn't apply to the end game. So why have it? Because all you're doing is alienating the players that are not very good, who don't really understand what to do. Players who play a lot like me, we know what to do to get around those issues. So I think a heal over time out of combat is a really good idea, or free repairs. The reason I say that is because when people are getting to this boss, or they get to a boss and they're dying over and over, they're running out of resources, they're breaking all their armor, and they're running out of money, and they don't know what to do, you know? And at that point, people are quitting. That's what's happening. The first 2-3 hours, people are running out of resources, they're getting owned by the game because they're speccing wrong for one, which doesn't help as well. But even if you spec correctly, this game is super difficult on your first playthrough with no knowledge of the game. I just think one of those two things would help a lot. Late game's too easy. I think they know that. They're adding some world tiers. Hopefully they're really difficult. I think boons... Personally, I'm just not a fan of boons. I hope it just stays in the one Crucible mode. But I think the Pestilence tiers are something I need to look at as well. Right now, I could go to this zone here, and I could make this a tier 2 with 5 modifiers. But then I could go to the shallows and make this a tier 4 with 3 or 4 modifiers. You know? Why? If I go here, I could make it with 10 modifiers at tier 2. I think it's very confusing for people. You know, keep it stable. So tier 2 has X amount of modifiers, tier 3 has even more, tier 4 has even more. I think the fact that a tier 4 can be easier than a tier 2 just doesn't make sense. It's not going to make sense to 95% of players. You know, 90% of players are, you know, well, maybe not 90%, but there's a big percentage of these players that don't even know how to spec weapons. So that's just going to confuse them. At the end game, people want to know, what tier are you doing? What level have you achieved? Well, when someone says tier 4 to me, it means nothing on this game. So I think they need to have fixed brackets. You know, tier 2 has X amount of modifiers, tier 3 has X amount of modifiers, tier 4 has even more. Yes, allow it so all the Pestilence materials give bigger boosts. But don't allow it so that they have less modifiers. I think that's an issue. I also think with Pestilence, you know, this stuff like 100% of focus use on one use, stuff like that takes away from the character is a bad thing for the game, because the idea is that we make a build and we want it to function and we want to use it and we want to test it. But when you take something that's such a core aspect from the build away, it doesn't become fun anymore. So I think what they need to possibly look at is making Pestilence more difficult through the enemies getting boosts, not taking away from your character. I don't want to have to completely change my build because of one modifier. You know, personally, I think these sort of games are about building your character to play a certain way, then testing that. But when certain aspects are taken away from you, my experience, and I think a lot of people that I've spoke to have said, it is not fun when you take away my focus, you take away my stamina. Move speed, okay, that's fair enough, but some of the core things like focus, stamina, you've got to be really careful with those, I think, because they're such a core part of the builds. And I just avoid them for that reason. It's just not fun. It's not a challenge, it just makes it not fun. I think rewards are too flat across the activities, they're not distinctive enough. I know Pestilence gives you Pestilence materials, but yeah, there's, you know, because of the Embers are the core issue of a lot of this. When I get a purple item, I don't really care. Like, I just look at what it looks like. There's not really any distinctive moments when you get loot on this game. Where's the really exciting part of this game when you get loot or anything? Kind of isn't really there, unless on your first playthrough it is, because you need stuff, but after that, it's like, I know they've said they want that moment where you get an item that's like, oh, this is really good, but that's just not there, because you can make any item a god item right now. You can run these, exalt it, and you've got a god item. While you've got that ability that I can just forge a god item, loot is never going to have an impact, unless it's a legendary. Obviously we know the legendary rings are broken, and I'm sure they'll get patched, but I think they need to add a way to somehow make drops unique. Like, you know, maybe drops can have a greater affix like what Diablo has, and that's the only way to get a greater affix. You know, and you can't re-roll that greater affix, but you can re-roll the rest. Something like that would be really, really good, because then you've got something to chase a bit more. But I do like the way gear is. It's simple, but complex in the same way. It's not overcomplicated, but I think they need to really think about Embers. It's impacting a lot of aspects of this game. I also think, so I talked a bit about the Crucible before, like boons and stuff, but I'm not the only person who said this, but I do think a lot of people like the old Crucible more as well. I hope they bring that back. I think the old Crucible style was really good, and I'm hoping they'll bring that back without the boons. I like the environments as well, so I hope they just bring that back as a second Crucible, because I really like that one. A couple of other ideas are weight-specific bonuses. So when I'm in fast range, you know, give me some attack speed bonus, 10%, 15%, maybe a bit of extra lifesteal. and less stamina use or something like that, or quicker stamina recovery. If I'm in the heavy range, you know, give players, you know, some extra armor and health. In the middle range, give them like a boost in both, but a smaller boost in both sections. I just think there's not enough bonus to being a low level armor class. There's just not. You get extra resistances, but you know, this is the primary to be in the game in every build. Yes, I do this with some of my builds to make them fun, but I think there needs to be some distinction between these. Like, if you've got cloth on, you should be able to attack faster if it was real. So why not have more attack speed and less stamina cost or something? And then here you'd be, you know, naturally you're gonna have more armor, but give them an extra armor boost or something. I just think there needs to be more distinction between these rather than just it being a dodge roll and move speed, because it's not enough. You know, the normal dodge roll is actually in some cases better. For this build, this is better than the fast dodge roll because it allows me to stay close. You know? So I don't think it's a case that the fast dodge roll is always the best. I hope they look at something, you know, like that. I think it allows for more variety in builds as well. Yeah, I kind of said about, you know, gear, too easy to max out. We need more variety in items, so it's harder to reroll stats. I mean, right now it's super easy to get what you want because there's not enough stats. If they doubled the amount of stats, it would make it a lot harder to reroll what you want. That'll be good for the game's release. Also, I think they should just remove the word durability, like from these enchantments, because it forces you to run indestructible, unrepairable on every piece. And I just think that's, you know, why have it? Why have the durability thing? I think just leave it as a stat. The blues, maybe leave it to make purples better than blues, but yeah, I just think it's pointless. It's forcing people to do the indestructible and unrepairable thing. But overall, gear, I think is pretty good. It's just too easy to get what you want. And I think there needs to be a bit more, to give you a bit more of a grind to get that extra special piece of gear, which I hope they get that right. You only get one chance usually in these sort of games to get it right. And I just hope they really reflect on a lot of the way they've done. You know, adding this in is such a powerful thing. It's one of the most powerful materials I've played in any game. That ability to make any item a god item. Personally, I don't really like exalting. I think that's just too good as well. But you don't want to make the grind too hard. That it was too hard before to get the gear you wanted. You know, without putting crazy hours in. But now I think it's gone way too far the other end, and there needs to be a happy medium. So hopefully they can find that. Some other quick ideas, these are just things that I thought of that, you know, that aren't in the game, but I'm hoping they'll possibly consider. Custom lobbies for PvP. I think they shouldn't underestimate how popular PvP could be on this game. It'd be great if we have like matchmaking, you can jump into any PvP, jump into a free-for-all, team matches, but that ability to add custom lobbies allows friends to get together, allows people to do tournaments, just have fun with people that they know, test builds out. I think custom lobbies could be really, really good on this game. Again, it depends how much effort that takes for devs. I'm not a developer, so I don't know, but I think that could be really good. Another thing, like a PvP social hub as well. You know, like a little battle area where there's like some tents and stuff like that around, and vendors, and you know, allow 20 people just to randomly load into zones. A bit like what Destiny has, and some of these other games that have social hubs, like PoE has one kind of at the main base at the end game. I think it's a good thing for this game to have something like that. We've got all these realms, everyone's segregated, but give us a PvP area where we can load in and there's just 20 random people. I can challenge them to a duel, you know, and just have a quickly load up a duel or something like that. I think that'd be really good for this game, but again, a lot of work. I also think this house, I've put far too much effort into this house, and I think a lot of people have, right? And a lot of the time I'm in different realms, but I want to come back to this main house. So give us the ability to teleport back to a favourite house. We can favourite one house. We can, from any realm, teleport back to that house. Now that might be a lot of work, but again, if it's not a lot of work, I think that'd be huge. You know, just to have a favourite house. No matter what realm I'm in, when I teleport back to my house, it just comes back to this one house. I'd like that, but again, might not be easy. I talked a bit about greater affixes earlier. But one last thing I wanted to talk about was transmog and cosmetics. I think, you know, I know they're against kind of doing microtransactions, which I hope they change their mind to. I don't think microtransactions are a bad thing, and I don't think they'll be taken badly if they're just implemented in a way that's not trying to steal from people, basically. You know, as long as it's not pay to win, and it's not, you know, $50 just to buy a hat or something. You know, make it a good price. Maybe add a battle pass or something as well. I don't think people will be upset with that. But Transmog, I think, is something that they should really consider. If once we can't reroll gear, we're not going to be able to customize our look, and I personally don't want to run around with a pig on my head and plate armor and then and shorts with a bow. It's just I think a lot of these games, that fantasy, people want to build their own character and the design and how it looks. I'm big on that as well, so I hope they add a transmog before full release. I think that'd be really, really, really good. Those are the main things I wanted to discuss. The main thing is items. This is a loot-based game, and if it's too easy to get the loot, the full release, they could add loads of great content, and they have done this season, but if it's too easy to get the good loot, endgame, doesn't matter how good the endgame is, if it's too easy to get through, too easy to get the gear that you want, those games just don't last. Easy kills looter games, and it always has done. That's why Division 2, that's why Destiny 2 died. Both of them died, like, within a month. Destiny is the prime example. Destiny 1 was such an amazing game. It had unbelievable hype for Destiny 2, and it died in a month. Because they literally gave an exotic as soon as you load it in. This game's not quite as bad as that, but after a couple of weeks you've got a god build and you're slicing through everything like it's nothing. I don't think the world tiers will be enough, because again, once you've got all the items you want, that incentive for a lot of people goes. So I just hope they kind of keep the simplicity of gear but make it harder to get that special gear. Find a way to make drops more appealing. While you have these in the game, with infinite rerolls on gear, it's just not going to be the case. It's just the way it is. Unless they're super, super rare to get. Right now they're not, are they? I've got 100 and something here. 171. But I wanted to end as well on positives, because they have done an amazing job. I love this game. Really good. I like all the different weapon types, animations, the builds I've done. There's just endless build combinations now. So, look, they've done such a good job. I think it's such an amazing game. I've played it so much. I really like it. And I've made this video because I really want it to do well. And I see such huge potential in it. I think the devs really love the game, put a lot of work in. I just hope they look over some of these areas, reconsider the long-term effects of some of the things they're doing. And if they can flip the difficulty of early game around with late game, make the early game a lot easier, to get people into the game. Make the end game really, really difficult. Make it really hard and drawn out. That'll be a better way for the game to release. I hope they manage to pull it off, because they've got something special here. It's an amazing game. They've done such a great job with the update. But I think some of their loot design choices are a bit of a concern. Last year they nerfed all the on-hit effects of focus, because they don't want people to spam runes. Well, after this update, it's even easier. When you get these rings, it's even easier to do it. You can combine these two to do it, and then there's the Ring of Determination, which is the most broken item in existence. So it's a bit of a concern they release those items, because it's like you tried to nerf it and then you've just added something that makes it even worse. So. But other than that, great game, highly recommend it. There's so much to do on it. The world is kind of huge as it is. It's going to get way bigger as well for full release. Lots to do. Lots of great ways to play. Yeah, I'm really optimistic for it. And yeah. Hope that gives a good idea of my thoughts, and we'll see what happens with the future updates. I hope that recorded okay. It did. Cool. Alright, I'll cut that out. I'm done yapping now.